You know, vampires in media have always been either predators, love interests, or I guess now in Enfield we have Camille, who is quite the impressive support, and maybe a love interest too? Anyway, in this video, I will show you everything you need to know about Camille, including his best weapons, teams, and gear. On top of that, I'll showcase his rotations and the proper way to utilize his abilities. So join me in this hunt for the sexiest vampire, and keep watching my Camille's complete guide video. Alright, so what does this chuny looking dude has to offer? Besides acting dramatic? Well, a lot actually. You see, he has really good heat infliction, he can provide link buff quite consistently, and can even stack it twice, and obviously as a vanguard he restores SP, and frankly, he restores a lot of it. And then thanks to his gear, weapon, and passive, he can provide a bunch of buffs. Overall, he is a great choice for those who are looking to upgrade Leviathan teams, but at the same time, he also offers benefits for other characters like Rossi and Tong Tong. What can I say? The man is a beloved support. But okay, let's take a look at his kit because there's quite a few crucial details that make him strong. First, we have the basic attacks. It's a 5-hit combo with last hit of course delivering final strike. Honestly, because his other animations take a while to execute, playing him on field can be a bit of a detriment when you could otherwise keep spamming basics. So even though in this section I will showcase him as the active unit because, well, he's pretty to look at, in majority of teams, it's better to just stay on another character. Okay, next we have the battle skill. He quickly summons and hits the enemies with some bats, and these little fellas actually do a lot. First, they will apply heat infliction, and then this bat debuff icon persists for 45 seconds on the enemy, and during it, they are affected by weakness and heat susceptibility, both of which have a 7% modifier when the skill is maxed out. But here's the kicker, if the enemy dies while the bats are on them, they will jump to the next closest target, immediately dealing damage, reapplying heat infliction, as well as weakness and heat susceptibility. The only thing to keep in mind would be the 45-second timer. It doesn't reset, but hey, 45 seconds already super good duration, and you don't need to use his skill that often. But yeah, this battle skill is amazing in AoE when clearing enemies, and Leviathan teams especially appreciate this ability. Moving over, we have the combo skill. It gets triggered when heat infliction on enemy is consumed. So for example, when electrification, solidification, or corrosion is triggered from an enemy having heat infliction on them. Or this combo also gets triggered when heat is absorbed, which for example, Leviathan can do it. Well, I mean, she enables final strikes to absorb heat from enemies, but you get it. Now, this combo deals damage and restores 20 SP, and has an 18-second cooldown when maxed out. However, when hitting the enemy who is affected by the battle skill, meaning they have the bats on them, two more things happen. First, an explosion occurs, which deals a bit of damage, and then also his first passive talent gets triggered, which restores a bit of HP for him, and enables link buff for the next battle skill or ultimate anybody casts. As a reminder, here you can see link benefits. Lastly, since his combo restores HP, his other second passive talent gets triggered, which grants him 1 stack or 2 stacks when he has full HP, and each stack gives 4% heat damage, maximum 5 stacks, so total 20% heat damage bonus, while the other teammates only gain 25% of it, so literally each stack just gives 1% or 5% max, and it's a not very serious buff for the team, to be honest. Okay, finally, we have the ultimate. This bad boy rains from the sky some AoE damage and applies heat infliction, while also restoring 40 SP. Most importantly, for the next 15 seconds, Camille enters Hunter Pursuit mode, and his skill becomes enhanced. You can also see his arm becomes bloody, typical vampire stuff. Anyway, this enhanced skill is considered to be a combo for some mechanic purposes and costs no SP. And basically, it deals good damage, does a lot of stagger, and recovers 40 SP, plus 10 extra ultimate energy is also regained. And keep in mind, since this is a combo, it also triggers his passive, which grants Link, heals him, and gains those heat damage stacks. In fact, it can even work without the bats on the enemy. So you can actually stack 2 links as shown here from this table. I'll talk a bit more how this can be achieved in team section. All in all, Camille is quite simple, but one thing to note would be his combo, and I guess let's call it super combo skill from the ultimate. Both of them have pretty long animations, which is actually not bad because you can do some clever stuff when setting up nukes with other characters. But for now, let's take a look at his build. Okay, so first, when it comes to abilities leveling priority, make sure to max out combo, and then ultimate. This is important because the combo at max level reduces its cooldown by 1 second, and majority of SP restoration lies in it, while ultimate at max level helps restore more SP as well. Battle skill has the next priority since max level improves susceptibility modifier, and then finally, you can also level his basics, but the priority is really low, and I just save the resources and keep basics at level 9. Alright, let's talk about his weapon and gear options now. And really, when it comes to weapons, there's only just 2 options to consider, either the signature or getting the Beacon of Duty from the Battle Pass. For reference, you can see here 4 different situations when comparing the weapons, and in which team Camille is utilized. The signature doesn't offer that much of a big jump in power, like at best 5 to 8% team DPS increase, and even in some teams like with Arknights, the difference is almost minimal between the two. But to be fair, the attack percent increase signature offers for the team can be quite reliable for any teams that are not focused on heat damage. The other good thing about Battle Pass Beacon of Duty weapon is that its ultimate gain efficiency is not locked behind dupes, unlike signature, where you would have to pull multiple copies just to increase it from the passive. So yeah, Beacon of Duty is pretty great. It becomes also slightly better with additional refinements. Otherwise, if you cannot obtain his Battle Pass weapon, then just use Chimeric Justice to at least fulfill his energy needs. Now, when it comes to the gear, I'm gonna be honest guys, we didn't have a ton of time to calc a lot of the stuff, so please take these recommendations with some grain of salt. I can't get into the details this time around, we had less time to prepare. Anyway, there's 4 ways how you can approach his gearing. The first one is quite simple. Just use Frontier's Protection Suit, Fiber Gloves T1, and Extra O2 Tube to activate the set bonus, and then use Redeemer Seal. This loadout works well in teams with Rossi and Mifu, as well as with Leviathan and Antal, where you don't need more than 99% of energy gain. And the reason why you want to build energy on him and to reach enough of it boils down to ultimate applying extra heat, it generates SP, and you can set up an extra link buff from it. So it's a very valuable part of his kit, and I recommend aiming for enough energy. Otherwise, you can swap out to Frontier's Armor T2 if you're using Battle Pass Beacon of Duty weapon with maxed out energy substat, or, and this is probably not relevant for many of you, when Camille has 4th potential unlocked. In all other cases, if energy requirements are high, like over 120% in teams with like Tong and Gilberta, or with Leviathan and Wolfguard, or with Rossi Arts teams with Gilberta, then go for Shire Knight's set, consisting of Frontier Protective Armor, Shire Knight Gloves T1, and 2 copies of Shire Knight Auxiliary Arms. So in other words, if you're using Unrefined Signature, because you then need more energy, and thus Eternal Shire Knight set is the way to go. Keep in mind, the reason Shire Knight set works well is because his battle skill applies weakness, which then triggers this set bonus for the team, and in general, the upkeep is really good. Lastly, there's this loadout where you don't need energy, like when rushing bosses or farming dungeons. Then use Frontier's set consisting of Armor T2, Blight Resistance Gloves, Extra OT Tube, and the offset piece can be Type 50 Radar T2. So yeah, those would be the build options. Next, let's go over his teams. Okay, this time around, I'm just gonna show you guys the info on the screen as I keep on yapping. Again, reminder, these are early calcs, so thanks again Catalyst Online and Low Priority for doing an awesome job. Alright, first we have probably the most happiest team in the game because Camille brings a lot of new firepower for it. That's right, Leviathan just loves this guy. His Vampire Bats from the battle skill are super good in AoE situations, and also since ultimate applies heat, the team ends up gaining a lot of heat stacks. I also want to mention, and this applies for any team really, the trick with Camille is to play around his long animations before he applies Link through his combo and its super version, while the other character skills and ultimates consume it. But at the same time, we can still get Link on abilities we need. And this team in particular with Antal and Ardelia works great. But of course, you can replace Antal with Wolfguard or Ardelia with Gilberta. But when it comes to Ardelia, she's quite valuable and worth keeping, since her corrosion helps trigger Camille's combo and her debuff lasts long enough during the ultimate. The point here is that Camille can be put into any of your existing Leviathan teams you ran before and act as a strong upgrade. In fact, I would argue because Camille applies 1 extra heat infliction compared to Wolfguard, in single target situations you can drop him and use Antal instead, since it leads to more SP SB. But the boys at Theory Crafting Table also suggest Wolfie still ends up good in AoE situations. So this means he's just less efficient in boss runs. Now, when it comes to Rossi teams, you can play Camille in a team where you focus on Rossi's heat damage output, such as this team comp made up of Rossi, Perlica, and Gilberta. The trick here is to try and get one link buff on Rossi's ultimate and the other link buff onto her skill, while the enemy is staggered, leading to some big damage gains. On the other hand, you could also go for this physical team made up of Mifu, Pogranichnik, and Rossi. Remember, Rossi can also dish out physical damage too. Here, when it comes to utilizing Camille's link buffs, Rossi's ultimate or Mifu's ultimate will want it. Otherwise, you could also just go for a more free-to-play variation with Chen and Endman. Lastly, and this one is a bit more advanced, you can use Camille in this team with Tang Tang, Zaihi, and Gilberta. Remember how I've mentioned the double link trick that's possible to do with him? Well, this rotation video showcases it. Remember, most of the equipment is nerfed here because otherwise the target would die too fast, which is pretty funny if you think about it. Anyway, this team is great because Zaihi's combo applies Ice Infliction, and the moment this happens on Heat Infliction left from Camille, both his combo and Gilberta's combo get triggered. And then because of this, Tang Tang's combo also starts, which then leads to Gilberta shattering the enemy with her lift and building stagger faster. And then obviously as you study this rotation, the double link buff leads to some big beautiful damage from Tang Tang. Remember, in order to reliably do this, you need to wait until Gilberta and Camille's combo are ready yet again, which you can always track by just looking at these white bars here. But yeah, as someone who is getting old, I feel like this team is for people who enjoy advanced gameplay and have good reaction time. Either way, this team is pretty dope if you think about it. And it has Tang Tang Tang. Anyway, this is a quick team section. You can stop the video and check out the finer details if you need to, but overall, Camille feels like a great upgrade for Leviathan teams, and pretty decent for other characters like Rossi. The thing about vampires is they live long and can become quite rich over centuries. But all it takes is one Camille, and you could end up spending a small fortune on his potentials. So, how good are they? Well, his first potential essentially improves heat susceptibility and weakness by extra 5%, and the skill's duration becomes 60 seconds, so nothing too amazing. Then second potential, just small stat gains to boost his personal damage, literally almost zero impact on team's DPS. Then third potential improves both his versions of combo, like boosting damage and gaining 6 more SP, which sounds good, but I think it's more interesting how combo cooldown gets reduced, and could be valuable in certain teams where this matters. Now, P4, as boring as it sounds, that reduction cost for ultimate means you can always run Frontiers set on him, leading to a nice bump not just to his personal DPS, but also decent improvement for the team, which becomes even better thanks to the third potential. Lastly, if you're really willing to spend a fortune, then P5 improves the heat damage stack numbers from the passive. Either way, keep in mind, these potentials will differ from team to team. Like Leviathan teams should expect better return on investment here, but overall, always first consider your own financial well-being before spending money in gacha games. Anyway, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and press like on the video. Thanks, and bye-bye.